I'm sure you've heard the news, but not like this. Get ready to dive into what's happening in the world of MMA. We're your go-to spot for fight night predictions, fighter interviews, and all the behind-the-scenes action you crave. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Give it up for your host, the one and only Panda.
Alrighty. So real quick, I don't want to butcher your last name. Can you say your last name for me?
I can imagine. That's Beukema.
Beukema?
Beukema. It's a little tricky. So just Nick is fine.
Okay. All right, guys. We are joined here by Nick. So I guess we'll just jump right in on this. So congratulations on signing a multi-fight deal with Cage Warriors. Your manager told me about that. That is a crazy achievement. How does it feel to join such a prestigious organization?
Man, it's so exciting. I've been to a couple of events live already, and it's just electric every time. So to be able to be a part of that is super exciting, like you said.
Yeah, dude, we were watching some of your clips before you jumped on, dude. You are a monster, dude. You had a spinning back fist knockout. that was brutal.
Was it like
dude.
9 seconds?
Yeah, it was a 9-second KO. Absolutely crazy debut to have. So yeah, I like to bring the excitement.
That was your pro debut.
Yeah.
Wow, dude, that is definitely a way to stamp your name on it.
Electrifying, man. And then that's so cool. You're fighting in an organization. That's where the Conor McGregor, Patty Pimblett, those guys they came out of there. So you're undefeated so far in your pro MMA career. How are you attributing? What do you attribute to your success, and how do you maintain the winning mindset?
Yeah, I have a great team. My coach, who also fights at Cage Warriors, he fought for the belt a while ago. Orlando Prince, as you probably know. He's an amazing coach, and having a coach that competes as well gives us a great example to strive towards. And just following the plan that he laid out for me, as well as the other guys that I train with. That's what I would attribute the success to.
Yeah, there's definitely a big part of that is the culture of the gym that you're working in, for sure.
Yeah. So on the subject of gym, can you share any insights into your training regimen and how you prepare for your fights? Yeah.
So usually we train 2 separate classes, so that amounts to 3 hours, 3-hour session every day. On Sundays, a complete rest day, so I get those days to recover, recuperate. And I do my strength and conditioning next to that. Every now and then we sneak a morning session in there. We just go by how you feel. Like if you got some energy, put in a little morning session.
Little Sunday fun day, it sounds like. So what do you do outside of the octagon, man? Like who is Nick when you're not fighting?
Not a lot. I just like to chill out, play some video games.
Dude, what's the game?
A homely guy. It's just some nerdy shit mostly.
Well, I play World of Warcraft, so I know all about nerdy shit.
Yeah. Well, play Diablo.
Okay. Yeah, Diablo 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some RPGs. I like just the real nerd stuff gets me.
For
that's
me,
what I like.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's what I like RPGs and stuff. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, for me, I still haven't gotten over Halo 3, man. I'm still playing that.
Oh yeah.
I
get that for sure.
So have you heard anything about, obviously if you can't share, don't share, but have you heard anything about upcoming opponents, who they're looking to match you at, and maybe when you're gonna fight?
Yeah, so they lined me up with a potential opponent. I got the agreement, I signed for it, and we're just waiting for the other guy to accept and for Cage Warriors to confirm. So obviously I can't tell you any details until it's announced, but yeah, I'd love to be able to compete soon.
But if you had to say a name and like cough like that, that's okay too.
I might get in trouble, guys. It's my first one. So
I'm just teasing. Yeah, definitely don't listen to me, man. I'm a bad influence.
He's an idiot.
Hey, what country are you in?
Netherlands.
Netherlands. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I haven't been there yet, but that's definitely on the bucket list. I want to go. You know, so I was a wrestler growing up, started in the 5th grade, did it all the way through high school. I got to ask you, because I used to cut a ton of weight to compete in the division that I was in. And I know for me, I always had a couple of things that I was craving the entire weight cut. I'm just curious, do you have those foods for you? Is there a certain thing that you always think about while you're cutting weight?
Honestly, it's a lot. Just a lot of food. But the thing I've been thinking about lately is like Doritos, especially.
Ooh,
Like
what
just
kind?
crunchy food, like the black
Nacho
one,
cheese.
like the spicy one.
Which
I'm
one's
not
that?
sure if you guys have those.
Yeah, we probably don't have it here.
It's a black one. What is it?
It's
Is
like
it
a
like a flaming hot?
sweet chili or something, or flaming
Yeah.
hot, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, here the black bag is barbecue, so we don't have that here.
Oh, that's right.
Okay,
You're
fair
right. You're
enough.
right. Or is that
The
Lay's?
spicy one?
No, it's Doritos. I just had it the other day.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Fair enough.
I'm fat.
Well,
dude.
yeah, just everything, just everything. Fast food, just whatever, milkshakes, chocolate milk, anything you can have, you start to crave. But especially like crunchy, greasy food, like stuff you can't have during a cut. Yeah, I can't wait to fight, because then I get to eat, of course.
So after the fight, you look like me. You're in the kitchen. You're taking butter baths. You're just down in the calories.
It's gonna be wild. Yeah,
Dude, I
it's
used
gonna
to
get
have an
crazy.
emergency kit with me, I called it, but it was like I'd have a Snickers bar in there, a freaking bag of flaming hot Cheetos with a little side of nacho cheese. Somebody should have stepped in and told me, hey, Taylor, that's not a good idea to eat that stuff before you get on the mat. But I didn't have that. I didn't have that kind of guidance, I guess you'd say. So I'd cut all that weight, eat the Snickers.
I used to make like a list as well. Like I was thinking, like, I'm gonna eat this, I'm gonna eat this, and I had a whole list.
And then you
Super
get full
long.
and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
I'll eat it later.
Still gonna force it in.
You can't eat anything, actually. When you get used to it, like you think, I'm gonna eat this, I'm gonna eat this, but you're so used to taking in so little food that, like, after one bag of chips, you're absolutely full.
Yeah.
How are the weight cuts for you? Do you naturally cut down the weight pretty easily, or is it a struggle for? I mean, what does that look like for you?
So my previous fights have done at featherweight, and that was a relatively easy cut. My coaches always told me, like, yeah, you're actually more of a bantamweight. And when looking at other guys, other gyms, and coming to Cage Warriors events and having a look at those guys, I was like, yeah, you're probably right. I should be fighting at bantamweight. Obviously, the results have been great so far, but I think I would be like a menace in bantamweight strength wise, and that would be the best place for me to be at. So it's a good excuse to take it seriously. Of course, my first fight at Cage Warriors, so I'm taking that nutrition diet super seriously to cut down to a good weight.
So what you're saying is soon we're gonna see Nick versus Sean O'Malley.
I mean, that's the end goal, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, so my next question is, who has been your toughest opponent so far, amateur or pro? And what did you learn from that fight?
Interesting. Well, I'm sounding like a bit of an asshole, but I didn't have too much of a challenge yet in my fights. It's usually honestly the guys in my gym, they kick my ass so bad. It's yeah, my coach and we have another guy who fights at a local promotion, LFL, Dashmar, teammate of mine. Is super high level strikers. Yeah, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, they got everything. So usually in the gym, I get my ass handed to me, and in the fight, it goes absolutely amazing. So I hope to continue that trend.
So would you fancy yourself more of a striker or a wrestler?
Honestly, I just take what I get. Usually I like to open first with the hands, like see where we're at. And yeah, I can take it from there. If it's going too well, I'll just keep it standing. And if I see like I'm having trouble figuring this guy out on the feet, I can take him down. So honestly, I just take what I get.
So yeah, you're pretty balanced. So And by the way, I think that's fair what you said, because I mean your pro fights so far have been like what, 9 and then like 15 to 30 seconds. So you really haven't had a lot of time in the octagon as a professional, because your fights have ended so quickly. So you haven't really had to face any adversity thus far, which, you know, they always say that the training should be a lot harder than the fight, right? If you're doing it right. So that just shows you what kind of caliber of a gym you're training, and that's phenomenal. Hey, what advice would you give an aspiring fighter looking to make a name for themselves in the MMA world?
Well, you just got to grind a lot. You got to get ready to really step up to the plate when you don't feel like it. On those days that you just want to stay home and relax, you got to go, and it's gonna be bad. It's gonna suck, but you know, you gotta see where the journey leads, where it takes you. I believe it's going to be absolutely worth it for me to put in the effort, just to see where I end up. So, you know, just keep grinding, keep doing your best, listen to your coaches, and of course you should get a good gym. Like, that's step one. A lot of guys, they put in a tremendous work, but if you just had a shit gym, it's going to go bad for you. And I was super lucky to find a great team, which is especially true in my country. You know, maybe you know, like Netherlands used to be super high level in the kickboxing scene, especially. But we recently fell off. You probably haven't seen too many Dutch people in the UFC or whatever. I think we got one guy right now. So there's a real revolution going on right now, and I hope that in a couple of years we can look at that and trace that back to our gym.
Yeah, you're right by that. And I think it's going to be somebody like you know, that's going through and having these flashy knockouts, that's going to bring a lot more attention to the Netherlands and give other, you know, young prospects the opportunity to actually show what they're capable of, because, you know, that's one of the hard parts about, you know, when you start to phase out and you don't have fighters doing things like what you're doing right now. The eyes aren't really on that country per se so I think that's awesome. You can pass the baton and kind of reach out and carry people up with you as you're doing what you do. That's an honor.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great. Like, if I can pave the path for guys in my gym, I'd be super happy with that.
Yeah. So I think this is probably my last question that I have. Are there is there any specific fighter that you have your eye on in Cage Warriors? Obviously, aside from your upcoming bout that may or may not happen, is there a certain fighter that you just can't wait to get your hands on?
Honestly, I haven't looked into it too much, but because I just watch every Cage Warriors event, basically. Anytime there's a bantamweight, obviously they had the prize fighter tournament pretty recently, and I'm checking those guys out, and with every single guy I think, like, how would I match up? So it's not one specific guy, but there are a ton of interesting matchups for sure, and I just can't wait to see what it's going to be like, you know, how the styles match up. Super exciting fighters. And just can't wait to get in there with those guys, see where I'm at.
Killer, dude. Hey, this is my last one for you, but what are your long-term goals with MMA? How do you see your career evolving in the next few years?
It's a great question. Honestly, to be really honest, I actually have no idea. The approach has always been to just see where this will go, because how I got into the sport in the first place is on recommendation of my coach. I was just doing some jiu-jitsu, and he was like, "Hey, you should fight," and the results were super good. And I was like, "Oh, okay, we might have something here." So the approach has always been like, let's write this out, let's stay on the path and do all the right things. Let's see where we end up, and it's still that way, you know. So we'll see.
Well, right on. Keep it up, Nick. We're excited to watch you fight, and hopefully when you do get the news and you're allowed to share it, we can be the ones to help you get that word out and get more eyes on you and put more attention on your name. We'd love to help you with that.
Yeah, man.
I love that, guys. Really appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, man. And we'd love to have you back on, either before or after your next fight. But until then, dude, we wish you luck, and shoot us over Messenger whenever you hear the news. That way we can tune in.
Perfect, guys. Sounds good.
Awesome. I appreciate
Thanks
it,
a
man.
lot. Thanks.
So, guys, we are joined here by Gabe Daffron. So real quick before we jump into it, I just want to say congratulations on getting that world championship for Combat Jiu-Jitsu. I'm sure that was a pretty hard feat to accomplish. Combat Jiu-Jitsu is the one where they slap each other, right?
Yeah, that's the one. It only took me 7 times.
That's the man one though. You're out there slapping fools.
It definitely incentivizes a lot of wrestling and being tight with your jiu-jitsu. So
yeah, how does it feel to hold such a prestigious title?
It doesn't feel like much. They got me a match out in Australia, but other than that, it's just it's just a name. So when people are going against me, they're like, I took out the Combat Jiu-Jitsu world champion. But other than that, I mean, it's a good payday, good payday, good accolades, something that I took me a long time to accomplish. It was hard to do. So, that's the biggest thing is, knocking it off the list just because, it was something that I set out to do and I got it done. So.
Can you share your journey and the challenges you faced on the path to becoming the Combat Jiu-Jitsu world champion?
I mean, the big one was some injuries along the way, so I've had meniscus buckle handle tears. So my legs, it doesn't sound too serious, but my legs lock out and it was pretty hard to deal with. I thought it was something more serious, but it got to the point where it, locks out, goes back into place, but then it was starting to be trapped at a 90-degree angle for weeks at a time. So I'm like, all right, we gotta get surgery here. And unfortunately I went through 2 of those surgeries. So I went through one on each leg.
Oh, okay. How long did the recovery take after that?
I was competing within 3 months. That's not recommended. I definitely wasn't fully I should have waited longer. Definitely don't recommend doing that. But I was able to compete within 3 months after. It was one of those things where you feel 100% until you're injured, and then you feel 0%. You feel like you can't walk, and they'll come back into place, and I'm like, oh, I feel great. But then the last 2 weeks, I was I was on crutches, not being able to move. So that was, that was definitely something where I'm like, oh man, I can't do body triangles. I can't, use my legs for jiu-jitsu in certain positions. That definitely, it takes a toll on your morale and just, you're like, man, maybe I should get a real job or something. This might not be for me. These legs aren't holding up. So, that was definitely a big one. And, one small one, not small, but, I broke my hand in my first competition back was actually this last Combat Jiu-Jitsu. So November I had MMA smoker and I just broke my hand on a straight cross and I had to get surgery on that guy too. Got the little scar. If you can, yeah, there we go. So clean break.
So I guess that's the good news, huh? It's clean break. It's easier to fix maybe, but yeah, I definitely can relate where you get injured, but you're also just so used to competing and training, and so you're just kind of jump the gun a little early, and you're eager to get back into it. It's not always a good thing. Sometimes it actually sets you back a little farther before you can actually get back to healthy again, for sure.
Yeah, I didn't have any setbacks from hopping in a little too soon. So nothing happened. I just didn't have not full mobility, moving around.
So, I'm kind of curious. What are some of the key techniques and strategies that you focus on in Combat Jiu-Jitsu? Especially when you include the addition of slaps being involved.
Yeah, I think people kind of get this wrong where they think it's like MMA where you just like hold down, you beat the shit out of them. But for combat jiu-jitsu, it's kind of different where it's just like the distance is different because people are playing more intricate like guards. So you have like straight line, center line strikes, like palms right down the middle that you don't really have in MMA. You kind of do, but like not as much. Like you have a lot more looping punches, you have hammer fists, you have elbows and shorter ranges, but I think the ranges are a little bit longer on the combat jiu-jitsu, which makes it slightly different. So protecting center line, like using maybe your feet to protect center line, kind of disrupt or interrupt those shots. Inside position on the upper body, trying to make sure you're in a clinch range and you're not giving, a straight line strike. It's usually not there's only been like, one knockout, clean knockout, and there's, been a couple of like stoppages, but there hasn't been that many. So it's relatively still jiu-jitsu at the end of the day. But one I focus on is like always hitting off the break. Like when guys are going to stand up, like Cody Steele, another guy that like he won combat, he did a good job. I remember like Nathan going to stand up and he slapped the shit out of him. But just like always taking that extra inch as a competitor, like not giving an inch and then just like hitting off the break because they don't really call it if a guy's going from the ground up and you throw the strike, if that makes sense. So there's like a transition time where you get the kind of that lag where you can get one in.
Okay, so they do have parameters around like when you could actually slap them.
Yeah. I actually did one in Australia recently, and this fucking asshole, he was just striking on the feet. It was basically like soft MMA. He was throwing like leg kicks too. It wasn't even foot sweeps. So I mean, they flew me out to Australia. Paid more than most MMA promotions pay, and then the guy got like the -1 where basically had to get a submission. Then they stopped it again. They're supposed to DQ him, but then he basically called their bluff where he's like, man, these guys aren't going to DQ me. This guy came all the way out from the States. They spent a lot of money on getting me out there, so they didn't DQ him. And they just got the match going. The guy actually ended up injuring himself kicking me, which is hilarious. He was
Yeah, we saw that on your profile. It's right when you were talking about that, I'm like, this sounds extremely familiar. We just watched that. That is pretty funny that he injured himself trying to commit a foul.
If it was MMA,
Instant karma.
Yeah.
MMA rematch, like he'd be TKO'd, like he couldn't defend himself. Like it was so silly that I was like, is this guy trying to bait me into like doing a flying knee on the back of the cage? Like he's putting his cage on, he's putting his back on the cage. He's like bending over. Like I thought it was like a trap. Like he's trying to get me to punch him in the face and just, get DQ'd. But yeah, no, I just grabbed his head and he pulled guard right away and just basically ended up tapping out after that.
Yeah. I mean, that is nuts. And, like you said, you mentioned the MMA, so I kind of want to dive in that a little bit. I tried looking up like Tapology and whatnot. I had trouble finding a profile, but I did see on your Instagram that you've competed at least one time in an MMA fight. So how does that experience in MMA compare to, like a combat jiu-jitsu? I know you just kind of got into it, but just for the viewers so they can get a little more in depth.
So the difference between the MMA than the combat jits?
Yeah.
I think the entries are the biggest thing where you got to manage distance on the striking in. It's a little bit, there's more incentive to take double legs or head outside singles and single legs to get the fight to the ground because you're winning pretty much if you're on top, so it's a little bit different where it's like in high level jiu-jitsu sometimes, like, especially submission only grappling or, even the ADCC rule set, these guys all have like, really high level counters and stuff like that. So unless you're going to win the match off of the incentive on the shots, it's not always like a great idea to like full send, the takedowns. Where in MMA, it's usually a good idea. It's like the submission's like pulling the rabbit out of the hat. It's like, sure, it looks great when it works, but fuck, if it doesn't work, like you're on bottom. And usually, I mean, with me too, it's like I'm gonna have the jiu-jitsu advantage on 99, 0.9% of the guys I'm going against. So it's just like you're now on bottom with a guy who's better at jiu-jitsu. You got to protect yourself from strikes and elbows and all that good stuff. And then obviously the distance tends to be a little bit tighter on the, when you do take the guy down, it tends to be more full guard, half guard scenarios where you're more like, guys will kind of give chest to chest. The reactions are a little bit different. You get to mount. They're holding on to you for dear life. They'll start grabbing you. And then if you land a couple strikes, they'll usually give up the back, which is fairly similar to combat jits. The guy has to be really stubborn, willing to take like a pretty good beating if he's not going to give up his back. But it's a little bit riskier, obviously, in MMA because you can elbow him too. And that's definitely farther up than slapping, I would say like punching and like the slapping, if you get good, good center line strike, like it could be pretty close. But elbows are definitely game changer.
Yeah. So, who has your toughest opponent been so far, and what did you learn from that fight?
MMA?
Just in general, it could be any across the board.
I'll just do MMA just because the Mongolian warrior was my toughest fight. Fucking learned to not fuck with the Mongolians,
We learned
that.
the same thing, but I'm curious to hear what your experience was.
Fucking hey, man, this guy was like a fucking fish. Like I felt like I was the guy that was like doing like oil wrestling. It was like it was just ridiculous. Like legs shaved and everything, got limp legged fucking 15 times, had like 31 attempts to get to the ground. I popped his arm round one, but he beat me up pretty good round two. And he was savvy, just good MMA guy, like short elbows, got cut open on the cage work, really awkward balance, unorthodox, and just a higher level of IQ and just like ring generalship and tactics than I probably have gone against. That being said, I did have him like Khabib'd against the wall. I thought the guy didn't know English, but it turns out he did because he said he's grabbing my shorts. And it's like, brother, I have my hands on your waist and your underwear is coming off because you're so slippery. I have a fully locked in triangle, and the man was able to freaking slip his feet and his underwear is falling off his ass, and I have like a grip on his waist, and that really sucked. And it was just, it was a guy who had like nine fights, been pro since like 2013, 2012, it was just like a blue belt versus a brown belt as far as experience goes in MMA. So I definitely got outclassed. I learned, tactics and composure go a long way, but I also learned like experience is fucking key in this MMA game. So yeah, even though like I look at a guy and I'm like, I can beat him in this one area, I want to look at the guy and be like, I can at least beat him in two areas, so that was something I took away, where it's like, I'm not taking a fight going like, oh, I'm gonna submit this guy. I'm gonna take a fight and be like, all right, I'm gonna fuck him up here, and I'm gonna fuck him up here too. It's just because you need it. Plan A, plan B. Ideally, it'd be all areas. You just look at the guy and you're like, fuck, I can do anything. I'm gonna win this fight.
Yeah. So, do you think it was a possibility he was greasing?
Or I heard Asians are slippery. You never know.
He had a lifetime of massage oil just embedded into that skin.
He definitely shaved his legs. So that's all I'll say. Some people are more slippery than others. I will say he was the slipperiest human being I've ever gone against. So
he's like a bar of soap in jail, man. You just don't, you know what I mean? You don't want to drop that.
Exactly. So it was a game changer. I think tactically, just looking at it too, I should have tried to. He fucked me up in the clinch, and I think I underestimated his skills there, and there's some things he was doing that like I was like, yeah, that would not work, and it fucking worked. It worked well. But I like looking back on it, I'm like, I should have went big on some like upper body wrestling stuff on the hips that I didn't do because I was primarily like doing leg attacks and stuff like that. And I think looking back, I would have tried to get like on body locks, and if I was like had myself, in the corner, I think I would have tried to have made that adjustment. Granted, it still might have not worked, but I like looking back on the tape, I think that's something I wish I would have done. He was a lot more grippable in his head. His head was more grippable. But he had me outclassed on the clinch work, and there was just a couple things that, again, I didn't think would work. He was rabbit punching me from like a Muay Thai clinch where I had the Muay Thai clinch, but the man was really, really fast, and his hip dexterity on his knees were just like ridiculous. I was like, this won't work. He just threw 6 punches. So,
Well, it's hard to deal with it, when you match a technique with the fact that you just can't get a hold of somebody. It's like really hard to grip something that's Jesus, man. Maybe that's your biggest takeaway is you got to come in oiled up a little bit. You got to.
I think I'd go the opposite approach. I'd come in a rash guard, and I'd like chalk my hands.
Oh yes, so you can absorb his oil.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're grabbing like the heavy weights. You just chalk up the hands, and you get the grips. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, I guess it's my turn to ask a question now. So what advice would you give to someone looking to compete in, combat jiu-jitsu or even mixed martial arts?
I mean, for combat jiu-jitsu, I would say it's not as scary as you think. It's just jiu-jitsu for the most part, with a few exceptions of like not doing really dumb shit, like sitting in half guard with distance where they can hit your head. Yep, probably not a good idea. Really sitting in any guards, not proactively moving while they have the distance to hit you. Yeah, probably not a good idea. You just have to close distance. Working clinch range, stuff like that. Sometimes you got to move when maybe you'd be a little bit more patient or a little bit more stubborn in those positions. Sometimes you just got to move. When you do that, relatively not super dangerous as far as like the strikes go and all that. And I think it's obviously a little bit more exciting because you have more scrambles. Some guys in jiu-jitsu, scramble a lot, they move a lot, but the striking definitely kind of incentivizes someone to move. So I think it's a pretty cool rule set. As far as MMA goes, I would say, don't disrespect any aspect of the martial arts game. You got to be well-rounded. Anything that you're like, oh man, I don't need to do that, that's usually a thing that's going to get you. So if you're a specialist, try to be more well-rounded. If you're a guy who's well-rounded, I would try to look at your opponent and try to like clean up the holes in that area that maybe they're better than you and it's a violent game. It's a little different than I would say the combat jits. It's dangerous out there. Definitely it takes time to get comfortable in that cage.
So who is Gabe, off the mat, man? What are you up to?
I own jiu-jitsu school, and I pretty much just train and do jiu-jitsu. That's about it. We got Friday brewery day. I've been telling the guys, what it takes to win a world championship is I went from not drinking, up to like probably 27 years old. Maybe there's like a drink here and there, on like a holiday or something like that. Or, I think I went to Europe one time and they were like, man, you don't drink, you have to drink, you'll disrespect us. But went there, started drinking beers, gained a couple pounds, and, brought home that world championship. So it makes a world of difference to walk around 148 versus being like low 140s. Sometimes reaching in.
Curls.
What's that?
12-ounce curls.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I think my metabolism slowed down slightly too, but unfortunately, not a winning strategy for ever making flyweight. So I might consider that in the future if the price is right. But no Friday brewery. So unfortunate, but got to pay the price to be skinny.
Makes sense. Well, I think my last question for you is what are your long-term goals in combat sports, and how do you see your career evolving in the next few years?
So first goal, number one, like I got into jiu-jitsu before doing MMA, I was interested in MMA. So I was like, I got my black belt and all that. And I was like, all right, well, now got your black belt. You did the things, you said you're going to do. All right, time to, hop in the MMA cage and, get in your underwear. It's a scary thing, being out there. It's never easy. So, I was like, all right, we're going to get 3 fights this year. Unfortunately, I fell short of that. I broke my hand. I got two pro fights, and then right after that, I bounced back with that Combat Jiu-Jitsu title, and then immediately after, I took a pro MMA fight, and won that one. So 2-1. I want to finish the year, get 2 more wins, kind of reassess my goals from there. But like anything, it's like one step at a time. It's like, all right, what are you gonna do? All right, well, we gotta have a winning record. We gotta make sure that it's financially rewarding for me to fight in my underwear in the cage because it's dangerous. So end of the day, I gotta keep a winning record, gotta win a regional title, and then I have to win a national title or an international title. I mean, that's really the only thing you can do in combat sports and get paid to do it, get a bag. So I think if the if the incentive's right, I'm in, but we got to make sure we take care of business and we get the job done, in your state, and you get the regional title, So if you don't got that, if you have a winning record, shoot, I might as well go back to butt scooting, It's just like right now, as far as grappling goes, I get probably more money per match than I do per fight, which is terrible. But I think overall, there's definitely more money in mixed martial arts, especially for my weight class where, I'm not a big guy. I have to, the beers helped. The brewery helps. But I still go in there and I didn't cut weight to 66, and that's like the lowest weight class. These guys in grappling are juiced to the freaking gills, A lot of my big wins came at 57 kg, 125. So, as far as grappling goes, for the bigger grapplers, there's a lot more opportunities. And that was something like I recognized like early on. So it's like, unless you're willing to get juiced to the gills, which, some people are, there's not a lot of opportunity for the smaller grapplers. So, and every jiu-jitsu guy, you know what they want to be? MMA guy. They want to be MMA guy. They want to say, oh man, this butt scooting, it works on the streets, they do twiddle the legs. Like we all want to be MMA guys. So, we want to make sure there's some combat practicality. All the jiu-jitsu schools are like self-defense, blah, blah, blah. Truth is, most jiu-jitsu belts will get their ass kicked in a fucking fight. And that's the reality. That's the fucking reality. So, I'm not saying against like somebody equal skilled, but like a lot of these sport guys would get fucked up by like a guy that has, a little bit of training, big fucker. And that's the reality is like, you got to be able to be in the fire a little bit. So if you want to say, hey, I can defend myself, you got to go out there and you got to scrap a little bit, you got to be used to that intensity. And when you're used to intensity and all that, yeah, sure, jiu-jitsu guys will mess up, a lot of guys. As long as you're comfortable, you're not like freaking out. But most of these dorks, man, you spaz out on them, you freak out on them, they're shitting their pants. That's the reality. You gotta do the real stuff. You gotta do the real stuff. You gotta work it in, and yeah.
You got to serve those omoplatas fresh baked, man. That's what it is. You call it boot scooting, we call it folding laundry while the people are wearing it.
Exactly. I actually pulled guard in that Mongolian match, and that man ran away from me. I thought I took all 3 rounds. Like, I was like, what is this? Like, I was literally scooting at him, and he was afraid for his life. The crowd booed me, but I'm like, why are you guys mad? I'm dominating this fight. This man is running away from me, disengaging against a man on his ass. You know, there's nothing more embarrassing than that. If you have to run away from somebody scooting at you, that's a bigger problem. That's a bigger problem.
Yeah, come down here, man. Come check this out.
I was scooting towards him, and I was like a fucking like a piranha, a fucking piranha going, and this guy was like running away. He was running away. He's telling the referee. He's trying to get the referee involved, and I was like, brother, no referee. We'll go pride rules. You can come in with fucking kicks. I'll take that leg. Unfortunately, those legs were super slippery, but
you were looking like
do what you gotta do.
You were looking like one of those aggressive remote little sweepers that people have in their houses, just scooting around the floor, just like, come get it, brother.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war. So,
sometimes
you gotta be slippery.
But a violent Roomba.
Violent Roomba.
That's pretty. We actually got a couple of those for the gym. I like them.
Violent Roombas.
Yeah, they attack the kids.
There you go.
I sick them on them. They take out their feet.
It teaches you not to get comfortable pulling guard.
Exactly.
First rule of jiu-jitsu, huh?
Got to work your legs. So.
Yeah. Well, shoot, man. I think that's all we got for you. We really appreciate you hopping on here with us and giving us your time for a short interview. We hope to. Do you have any matches or fights coming up that you can talk about here?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. We got a Excite fight August 31st, Muckleshoot Casino. Come check me out if you are in Washington State.
Okay,
Boom.
so
that's coming up.
You're right next to that to Mercenary Combat.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we've interviewed a bunch of fighters from there. Ali Pellegrini just made her pro debut on Invicta. She trains out of there.
No, you're wrong, dude.
Actually, I think I went against a guy in jiu-jitsu that does MMA, and I think that would, Devin Jackson.
Oh my god, dude! We just interviewed him like a week and a half ago. Yeah.
Is he still doing MMA?
Yeah, he's still doing MMA. They're trying to find him a fight. He's in Peak FC. I think he's
Sign me up. Sign me up. There we go.
Well, dude, sign up because supposedly they can't find anyone to fight him, and I think he's fighting at 125.
Okay, maybe not. I like. It depends what they're paying. Talk to me. 125. That's big cut. I would like to have. I would do 125. It's just, I wouldn't do 25 for, 1,000. I wouldn't do 125 for like, two pennies, I'm just like, I don't want to cut 20 pounds for freaking 5 and 5, it's just like one of those things. Granted, 5 and 5, obviously, like they could, it's probably not that, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just feel like, when they're when it's not UFC or one of the big promotions, I just feel they're not going to pay a big amount. You know what I mean? It's going to be a low amount.
So I think I stay chunky until I see something I like financially for that. Granted, I would be willing to do a catchweight. I think a catchweight would be a nice, like, in between, like something that's not like a full commitment, but like partial commitment. Like, okay, let's get like a practice weight cut almost.
Okay. Well, this is going to be funny when I post a thumbnail because Devin Jackson follows us. So that's going to be funny.
Perfect. I beat him in grappling, and this guy was complaining, about the match, and there wasn't too much to complain about. So it was a while ago. I don't know if he remembers, but Ducks do not forget. Ducks do not forget. He
Duck
was
around and
he
find
was,
out.
He got
he was
goose.
definitely a turd after. So, and he's like, I'm MMA guy. I'll beat you up. Blah blah blah. I'm sorry. Whatever.
Well, shoot, man. Yeah. So we look forward to seeing that match. We're definitely gonna tune in. Thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate your time. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.